Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are back in this thing. You know, this is Coffee with the Jenni and Dre podcast, and we are back. This is episode 2. I'm definitely proud of my beautiful wife and my co-host. Her name is Jenni Jones.
Hey, we're here.
We are back, and we're ecstatic that everybody that tuned in and really received us on episode 1, man. It was just getting to know us a little bit, man, telling some funny stories, just talking about how we met, our love story. And today will be just a little bit more about getting to know us, but on a deeper level. We're going to do some deep diving today.
Well, we got some feedback, and a lot of people were interested in knowing more about our journey to have kids and the struggles we went through. So this might be a little bit of a, like you said, deeper conversation. A little bit more raw, more emotional maybe.
For sure. I mean, she might cry. I might cry. I mean, I'm not going to cry, but she might cry. And it might be some, tears shedded here, man. We just want to bring some light on some things of just like, our journey and having our kids and how that journey came about. Do we have a conversation about having kids, or was I just shooting the club up? Like, how was that?
I don't know that we ever had like a sit down conversation about having kids. No, I don't recall that. I mean, I think the first pregnancy was not planned by any means. Mm-hmm. And then maybe after that we might have, we knew what we were doing.
Yeah,
but
for sure. Yeah. I definitely knew what I was doing.
But it wasn't like we sat down, we're like, okay, tomorrow we're going to try for a baby.
Yeah. We didn't plan okay, this is the month we're going to start planning for a kid.
Except for when we get into it, like when we started with Blakeland, then that was kind of like a different story. But,
yeah, for sure.
But prior to all that, no, it wasn't like an open conversation. No.
Yeah. So we didn't have a conversation. We were married though. So it wasn't like, we weren't having a baby out of, not being married and not being committed to each other.
Not the first one?
The first one we were married?
Well, okay. So we're talking about two different things. We'll jump into the whole story, but I thought you were going to do story. We're going to do story of the week to brighten it up a little bit first.
I thought we was doing story of the week at the end of the pod.
You want to do it at the end?
It's supposed to be at the end of the pod.
Okay, we'll do it at the end of the pod.
Yeah,
okay, so we're just going to go dive deep now. Okay, no.
We're just going to get into it right now. Like, why are we waiting
I just
over
thought
here?
we were going to say hey, this is what happened.
Nah, none
okay,
of that.
Perfect.
None of that.
So this is kind of like a pretty open conversation that might be a little bit difficult. So with our relationship, we do have 3 kids that we are so thankful for. But it might look as if this is so easy and you can just have babies, and we understand that that's not everybody's situation, and everyone has their own story as to how they conceived, and we're going to shed light on ours a little bit. And so even with that's some of the feedback we have. We have multiple friends right now trying to have babies, and it's not just working for them perfectly. Mm-hmm. And then like I said, even one of my best friends who she had to do IVF. So there's a lot of things on here that we can discuss and get into, but we have had 6 miscarriages. I think that's where what we're going to talk about. And even though it looks like we have these beautiful children, obviously, but there was a struggle to get to that point. And then there was medical reasons why all this was happening. And so we're going to kind of share my side of the story, and then kind of get a dad's perspective of how to be there and what to do and what y'all's emotions are.
Correct. So do you remember how long you carried before you had the first miscarriage?
Yeah, because luckily for me, and again, I have a friend who went way further, but all of the miscarriages happened around between 8 and 10 weeks.
Okay.
One might have gone a little bit further, and that's the one that I hemorrhaged and things like that on. But so what happened is, obviously the first pregnancy wasn't expected, and it was exciting, and it was first time being pregnant, and you had children, so it was new for us, but definitely new for me. And I was just real excited. Miscarriage was never even never even thought about that happening.
Yeah.
And so right around 8 or 9 weeks, I knew I think I had to go to the doctor or whatever. And there was, it was smaller than it was supposed to be or something like that. I can't remember the exact details of that. So then they were telling me that this isn't a viable pregnancy. And so this isn't going to last. And, but it was going to be like, your body will go through it. It'll be fine. You know, you're going to have a miscarriage basically. But there was nothing like no pill or anything. I know sometimes back in the day, I think they used to take a pill and it would make you miscarry.
I don't know.
I could be wrong, but I think so. But there was nothing to that. And so that was the first one. And then a couple months later, I don't know the how long, we were pregnant again. And so we were excited. And again, I remember telling my mom, I was like, I'm not even worried about, I wasn't even thinking miscarriage again because of, like, what are the odds that I'm going to miscarry again? So went about it. And I was like, it's going to be a boy. Because I wanted boys so bad.
Yeah, you did.
And then it happened again. And that's when I was like, okay, what is going on? And I think that's where medically I started talking to the doctor and I was like, okay, is there a reason? Like, what's happening? So she told me most times they wait until your third miscarriage before they start blood testing you and doing all of these things. But I was like, why would we wait
so long?
So my doctor started running all the blood work and all the tests. And came back, I had the polycystic ovarian syndrome. I get cyst on my ovaries every month. I knew I had that, but I didn't know that how it affected pregnancies, I guess.
Yeah.
And then they found out I had a blood clotting disorder, which is a really long name, which I'm not even going to know the name of it because it's so long. And with that blood clotting factor, basically what happens is the second I get pregnant, all pregnant women, when you get pregnant, your blood thickens. That's normal. Mine thickens further because of the clotting factor that I have. And so when that happens, your blood supply shuts off to the uterus. And so it basically, you miscarriage because your blood doesn't go where it's supposed to go. It's really interesting.
And then when you are pregnant, you always have to take those shots in your stomach.
Well, so that's when. So yeah. So when we figured out that that's what it was, she was like, "So there's a solution to this. With the cyst, now we have to take. It was called Femara, which is like a Clomid. I think that's the name of it. Where you take that was going to help us have a healthy ovulation. So now I'm like, okay, now we're going to have a healthy ovulation, but then you had the blood clotting situation. So then you figured out, okay, now we have to take blood thinners. The second you find out you're pregnant, you have to take a blood thinner. That's how she said it, right? And I was like, okay, no problem. So okay, I'll jump back to basically, I thought a blood thinner was a pill. Come to find out, it's an injection that you have to take in your stomach every single day. And that's when I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
There's an injection in my stomach. I thought, like, why can't we just take a pill? Couldn't do that, obviously. So then we knew the problem. So that was great. And what she told me, and for other women out there, the fact that you've gotten pregnant, and even though it ended in miscarriage, the fact that you even got pregnant is like a massive hurdle. So we knew all the pieces were working, but we had to figure out the problem. So once we figured out that problem, we started Femara, which was a really crazy process. Do you remember all of this?
I don't. Not the Femara part.
So it was a pill. It's been a long time, guys, but it was a pill that you had to take, but then you had to like monitor everything. So like they were doing sonograms on my ovaries before I was even pregnant. So I remember seeing the eggs that were going to release that is now Blakeland, which is so weird. And then this is when I told you nothing was planned except for this time, because now she knew exactly when I was going to ovulate. And so then it was kind of weird, but they were like, okay, so now y'all have to have sex 3 nights in a row. You don't remember this?
I just remember beating the cheeks all the time.
Oh my God.
I don't remember.
And I was like, okay, that just seemed, it was just a little weird because then it was like, it was, you had to do it. It was like, okay, now it's time. And we had never had to like
plan sex,
schedule that.
Yeah.
But I remember the third night, me and you, like, we were like, okay. We almost didn't do it, I think, because it was
so
like.
You think she came on the third night?
I think so.
On the third time we did
because
it.
we were like, come on. And here we are. So found out it worked, obviously. Got pregnant, but the chances of having multiples were super high, which was another scary, because I was like, oh dear. So that didn't, obviously, it was just one baby, thankfully, one baby. And when we found out, I still remember, I remember even with the first pregnancy, we had driven to San Antonio and I got car sick, and I had never been car sick in my life. And I was like, that is weird. I don't know what that was. And then on the way home, it happened again. And you were like, let's get a pregnancy test. And I was like, again, hadn't even crossed my mind that I could have been pregnant. And I was like, what? Okay. I took a pregnancy test inside of a convenience store. That was gross. Should have never done that.
I mean, everybody used the restroom in the convenience store, but I mean.
Ew. And then we waited in the car, and that's when we found out we were pregnant. And that's like, I remember feeling, we weren't married at that time. And so I remember being super nervous then, because I was like, what is he going to think? Like, what is happening? And I remember you like calmly, we were in the, do you remember this?
Tell the story.
Okay. We were in the car and you, like, we saw that it was positive, and I think I was shaking, and you were like, I love you, and gave me a kiss. And then you got in the car because you had to go into a friend's house or do something. And I was just sitting there like, oh my gosh. But your calmness was just really cool for me, because I wasn't calm at all. But anyways, so back to the pregnancy that gave us our first child, Blakelyn. Everything went well. I mean, and then from there on, I stayed on the blood thinners and continued. And then I was considered high risk. So then I had to see a different, like basically a specialist.
Twice. We had to go to two different doctors.
Two different doctors all the time. So I was seeing like my primary doctor, and then I was seeing the specialist. And the specialist, they basically, their whole point was to make sure the baby was okay. And then my doctor was more checking up on me and the baby, but me.
Tell me this real quick. Let's jump back a little bit. So I know we had 2 miscarriages before we had Blake, before we got on everything. During those miscarriages, as a woman, how do you feel? Do you feel like, is it something wrong with my body? Why I'm rejecting this? Like, how do you feel as a woman? Like, or what's those emotions that you have?
You have all kinds of emotions. And again, with this, everyone deals with things differently. So the way I process and the way I deal is going to be totally different than somebody else. So I think like the first 2, it was like a gut punch, like a reality check. Like, okay, I know he has children, so obviously it's me. There's something going on with me. That's how I felt. The first one, I was just kind of I didn't blow off the miscarriage. I blew off overthinking. Is it me? What's the problem? And just chalked it up to this happens. Because the doctor said almost like 50% of pregnancies end in miscarriage. I didn't know that. And what the deal is a lot of people are miscarrying before they even know that they're pregnant.
Yeah.
So it's happening without you even knowing. And I think when she told me that, I was like, oh, okay. Well, so emotionally with the first 2, we were still like working towards, so I maybe I didn't even like process it the way I should have, because I was still just trying to look into the future for because she was like, we can do this, this, and this, and it's going to be okay. So I guess I was getting reassurance that it was going to be okay.
Yeah.
Now in those moments when it happened, obviously that was very difficult. Some of that I'm not going to touch on right now, like being at the doctor when it was happening, and because there was a nurse with, it was either the first or I think it was the second one. She was very, it was like she had seen these so many times that she was just like, oh, you're miscarrying. It is what it is, you know, and she was insensitive to it. And I remember getting really frustrated. And she was like, do you see the amount of blood? This is not a viable pregnancy. And it was just like rarely blunt. And you're like, okay. And so you had to like deal with that. But then we figured out everything. And so I had hope again. And so with Blake, you know, you stayed with the injections, which these injections left like bruises on your stomach. I mean, they weren't, I feel like I can handle pain pretty well. They burned like crazy. It was called Lovenox. If any of you ladies are out there on it, that's what I was on. Lovenox. And not only that, it's expensive. It is so incredible. You remember how expensive? Oh my gosh. It is so expensive. Expensive, painful, not fun every day. And not only every day up until 6 weeks after you give birth. So you have to take it for like 10 and a half, 11 months, and it's not fun. But it just prevents any blood clots and things like that. So obviously it's super important. But, and then with Blakeland, everything went well. It was perfect. It was a great pregnancy. Yeah. I had no...
How long did we hold Blakeland in for?
So Blake tried to come at 34 weeks, and we held her in because they were like, no. And then come to find out, it's okay if they come at like 35 weeks. They don't really freak out. And I was at 34. So I had to stay in the hospital a couple of days, and then they got my contraction to stop. But what's weird is with me, with all the pregnancies, I have these I forget what they're called now, like pre-contractions, but they're not real. They're not like the real thing, but I have them from very early on.
For sure.
I start having them. I'm like, everything would like tighten up.
Quick side note to everybody. You know, I don't want to brag on my wife, but I'm going to brag on her. You know, my wife has all these babies natural. You know what I'm talking about? Like she is one of the most strongest women I've ever seen, met in my life. Not saying there's nothing wrong with getting the injection and you know,
it's called doing an epidural.
Pain, getting epidural, doing that thing, let them shoot it in your back, whatever. I get it, I understand it. But this one right here, all natural. I'm talking about all natural. Quick story, then we get back on it. But like, I think with Naomi, so my wife will wear earphones, and you know what I'm saying, she'll wear earphones and everything, and she'll be listening to her music. She's super calm breathing while her contractions is going on. And when I knew she was a G is when she had the earphones on in, and she took them off like this, boom, handed them to me and told the nurse, I'm ready. And then boom, shit started rolling, bam, 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 boom, boom. And then there goes Naomi. So she can tell, she was doing this natural thing so good. I mean, she can tell when she was ready to roll or whenever she was dilated enough. It was a pretty dope experience. And she's just dope as hell.
Well, thank you. But it's not easy. That's for sure.
No, definitely not. Natural birth is
it's a mental game. And funny is everyone's like, to me, a shot in the back to make my whole body numb, that creeps me out more than just dealing with the pain. So I knew I wanted to do it natural, but I also know that when people have all these birth plans and things go, this is how I want it to go, it never goes that way. And so I never had a birth plan. I never read a birthing book.
We never went to no breathing classes.
No breathing classes. Didn't walk the hospital before. I didn't want to know because what y'all don't know about me yet is I am a hypochondriac. I don't need to know what could go wrong, how it could go wrong. Yeah. Because there's a lot of things that can go wrong.
For sure.
I don't want to know any of that. But what I also, and I think the story that you're talking about, I think that was with Corey.
Was Corey?
Yeah.
Okay.
With what I was more open to with Naomi is that, which is the third baby, is that I started listening to birthing affirmations. And we'll get into why I was more scared with Naomi than I was with any of the other ones. But I realized like our bodies are made for this. Like a woman's body is made to have babies. And I think not like in other countries, but in America, they make it a scary thing almost for women. Like you got to get to the hospital. You got to do that. You got to do all these things. And it's all these people around you. And if you don't, if you're not dilated, they're going to give you Pitocin and we're going to get that baby out, or they're going to do a C-section. And And really, if you just hold off and
let your body do its natural thing.
do it naturally, that's how I looked at it. And then it would make things a little bit smoother.
Yeah.
But I stuck to like no plan. But Blake Lynn's birth was so smooth and so easy. This conversation, if y'all can hear to my voice, parts of it make me a little nervous and anxious. So I can feel my like starting to shake a little bit, just because there's so much to unravel here. But Blake Lynn's birth was awesome.
It was.
I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know anything. My doctor ended up not being there. It was a different doctor who I loved. And I ended up going with her for Naomi because I found her. But her name was Blake, which was funny. Didn't know it till like right when we were delivering her. She was like, "What's her name going to be?" And I was like, "Blake Lynn." She goes, "My name's Blake." Loved that moment. But she was such an awesome doctor. But I had Blake in 6 hours for first pregnancy. That was kind of crazy. Now, mind you, I had been dilated and she had already tried to come. And so like my body was dilated and ready. So it didn't take me as long.
For sure.
But man, the first time you find out about how painful that is when you don't have an epidural. And then I didn't know anything about the ring of fire. I don't know how much details we want to give. But
so I'm the dad up in that joint and I don't be, you know what I'm saying? I like seeing everything.
God,
so,
I know.
Like, I like seeing it all.
He'll send me videos afterwards.
I mean, like I'm watching it, like I don't play no game. So the birth is beautiful. Watching a woman do her thing is the most beautiful thing in the world. So I like watching everything. Soon as that head come out and the ring of fire, which I don't know, I can explain. I mean, women can explain it better, but the ring of fire, the pain, they can explain that. But the ring of fire is when the crown is about to come out the head. So
the crowning of the head.
The crowning of the head. So the doctor gets some type of oil. I don't know what type of oil it is, but he goes do it around the head, and that's when it starts firing. That means that damn thing, that head is about to go bloop, bloop. And when that thing pops out, like the head pops out, boom, and I'm like, yes, I'll be loving it, right? And I touch the head right even before the shoulders and shit come out. I'm already touching the head and everything, and then everything else comes out like.
Wow.
Well, then it all comes out, and I'm still looking down there, and I tell her, hey, babe, don't worry about it. You only got to get 1 or 2 stitches. It ain't clip, but a little bit. But I think it's amazing. I think it's beautiful, and I just love every moment of giving birth and watching her give birth because I just think is amazing. I think it's pretty awesome.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going through the pain. I'm really just, holding a hand and shit and telling her to breathe. Other than that, I'm just an innocent bystander.
It is wild as a woman, and they're like, push, and you're like, I am pushing, and then that one time they had to put the oxygen on me, and then they were going to take it away, and I was like, no, give that back. I remember I was like, no, give me some more of that oxygen.
Which kid came while Kobe and them was in the playoffs? Which?
Court.
One of them came and,
Corey.
Kobe was playing. I'm not really trying to miss any Kobe situation.
No, so that wasn't the deal. Because it was the playoffs. This was Naomi. It was the playoffs, but it wasn't Kobe. Kobe wasn't in it.
Oh, okay. I knew she was trying to be disrespectful.
Because it was Naomi, which was born in 2021. So, but that's a funny story because I felt pressure. This was on the third baby. I felt pressure that I needed to get her out because there was a game that needed to be watched.
Not saying that I, value sports over the birth of the kid, but
that was ridiculous. Though.
We got to get it going.
That was silly.
Yeah.
But with Blake, everything went well, went smooth. We had her in 6 hours, got stitched up, which again, people don't talk about. But again, you're not numb, and you're like, okay, now we got to stitch you up. But I'm going to they give you an injection.
They do.
Right after having a baby, it is wild. Yeah. It is wild. But it doesn't matter. As soon as you give you the numbing or whatever, she immediately starts stitching up. Yeah. You feel everything. There is nothing numb down there. I mean, absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
We go back to the room. We have her, because there's another thing, is that night, I don't remember any more contractions. None. Great. It's perfect. Done. Then with Corey, which is the second one.
So in between Corey,
None.
No miscarriages.
No.
Okay.
No miscarriages.
No miscarriages.
That's
in
why I
between
always
Corey.
say like Corey is like our little miracle baby because
she came. I mean, we
7 months later.
Right, yeah. So I mean, soon as the doctor said, "Dre, you can shoot the club up," I was shooting the club up. Basically, is what you're saying. He was like, "Yo, she's
what
cleared."
What it was is I assumed because of everything we went through with Blake, I was like, this isn't gonna just happen again. So I wasn't concerned with it just happening.
But
again.
don't they say it's easier to get pregnant once once you have a baby and then
obviously because here comes Corey.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh cow, that's weird.
Corey wasn't planned.
No,
We didn't play, yeah.
no, yeah, it wasn't. I never had to take Femara again.
Yeah.
Put it that way. So I don't know if it just like boosted my. I don't know. I don't know what it did, but it
another egg just was chilling.
Yeah. So here goes Corey, and then Corey came. So Blakeland held into 35 weeks. Corey ended up coming at 37 weeks. And hers was a 3-hour long process. And again, at that point, I knew exactly what was coming. I was like, here we are. I know what to do now. And that's the one where I had the headphones on and I was like, okay, I got this. Yeah. I know what's happening. And then it was great. It was perfect. None of these I had to have Pitocin or anything. And so after Corey, we just kind of we had 2 babies now that were 16 months apart and we went about our lives and we were doing our thing. And then in between, this is where things get interesting. It's ladies, when you go to the doctor, they make you fill out paperwork that says, so I found out I was pregnant again. And I don't remember. Here's where things are going to get a little dicey. I don't know the time frame of how long after Corey that we found out we were pregnant again. Go to the doctor and they're like, you have to fill something else. Like, how many times have you been pregnant? And then how many children do you have? Yeah. And you're like, okay. But I remember being like, oh gosh, how many times? Okay. So at this point I had been pregnant. This was my 4th pregnancy, but I have 2 children. So you have to keep up with that. Right. And so, I'm like, okay, so that one, there was bleeding around the
sac.
Yeah. And I was like, what does that mean? And they were like, I've seen this go both ways. It's either going to be okay and it's going to dissolve or it's not going to be okay. And you're like, okay. So at that one, you could see the heartbeat. I saw the heartbeat. So I knew there was a baby. So it was a little bit further along, I guess, than the other 2 times. Yeah. And then I go to the doctor again and they're like, at this point, I am a pro at when they go to do those ultrasounds. I know exactly. I'm like, okay, there's the heart. Okay. I know all the things because mind you, I'm having to go to a specialist too. So every time I go to the doctor, they're doing ultrasounds. And so you get to where you know exactly what it is. And I had gone and then the next time I go, it was good news. She was like, look, the bleeding there's a name for this bleeding, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not good with remembering all the medical, things right now. My brain is not, it's not coming up with it, but there's a name for the bleeding. I just can't think of it. Not like a hematoma. Do you remember? I don't remember. No. So she was like, look, it's gone away. So not gone away, but better. So I had high hopes. So then another week goes by and I have to go to the specialist. So go to the specialist and, that's when she was doing the ultrasound or whatever. And I could tell she wouldn't say anything, but I knew there was no heartbeat at that point. This is where I might get, this one bothered me. Because with the other ones, I didn't see the heartbeat. And so it was not as hard, I guess. With this one, I had seen the heartbeat. And so she was like, she wouldn't say anything. And I looked at her and I was like, there's no heartbeat. And she goes, I'll be right back. And I was like, okay. So then I'm in the room by myself because you didn't go to some of these because I had to go to so many. You didn't have to be. And I remember, I think even with this one, I was like, no, I'm fine. I'll go, no big deal. So I remember sitting in the room. And so that one was hard. it was just harder. So then the doctor comes in, and of course she tells me kind of, what I already know. And so then I'm a little bit further along on this one. So I didn't know what the process would be. I was like, do we just sit and wait? She's like, yeah, you're going to start bleeding and, you'll go through the process again. And I was like, okay. So that was, and I did. So started bleeding probably a couple days later. So then that was that one. So that was the third miscarriage. And then I got pregnant again.
You did.
And again, excited, like thinking, still at this point, we're like, we're going to have a boy. We didn't go into that. With Blake and Corey, both, we didn't tell them how we found out if it was a girl or a boy.
No, we didn't.
We would have the doctors write it down on a piece of paper.
And we'll go to dinner.
And we'd go to dinner. And with Blake, but not with Blake, time out. With Corey and Naomi, with Corey for sure. Remember my mom was there when we found out if Blake was a boy or a girl?
I don't remember. We don't do no gender reveals though. We're not doing all this pop a balloon
we didn't.
all that
but
shit.
Also,
we don't do all
it wasn't
that.
A thing. Like it wasn't that big of a thing then.
Yeah.
But my mom was there for the ultrasound to find out if Blake was a girl or a boy. And I had known this whole time, she's a boy. It's a boy. It's a boy.
Yeah.
In my
because
heart,
they'd be like, oh, the heart beats this fast. It's a boy. If it's this low.
But her heart rate was always low. I mean, it was always fast, as if it was a girl or whatever. So my mom told me, she was like, it's a girl, Jenni. And I was like, no, it's a boy. It's a boy. I'm going to have boys. And my whole life, to me, I was going to have boys. So I grew, again, from episode 1, I grew up with all boys.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like to have a sister. I don't know what it's like to be around girls. I didn't play with Barbies. I had trolls. My brother cut all their hair off. I mean, like, I did nothing girly.
And small note, fellas, men determine the sex of the baby.
Absolutely.
Just so you know, if you have a bunch of girls, don't be like, oh, she couldn't give me. Men determine the sex of the baby. So if you got a bunch of girls, you did that. But I mean, having girls is probably, was the best thing ever for me.
I wouldn't change it for the world.
I don't
now.
even mind. I was never like the dude that's like, oh, I got to have a bunch of boys, man. I just want healthy kids. Like, I just wanted healthy kids. And having these girls were like the most amazing thing for me. So, whenever, it was never like I got mad for you saying, oh, it's going to be a girl. Even on the third one, because I basically.
No, but one of the times was pretty funny though.
Which one?
With Corey. So with Mom, as soon as they said it's a girl, I was dead silent. I said nothing. And you didn't say anything either. And then Mom goes, wow, guys, this is awkward. And I was like, Mom, just give me a second to process, because in my brain, it was a boy. You couldn't have told me differently. It was a boy. And so then I was like, wow, it's a girl. Okay, let me rethink.
Girls gonna take care of you when you're older, gentlemen. I'm telling you now, your daughters are gonna be the ones taking care of you. Your boys are gonna be the ones that put you in them old folks' home.
But not only that, is your boys then go off and
do
get
their own
married,
family.
and they leave you. Our girls won't do that. Like they'll always call me for everything. No,
so you think
they're gonna call me for everything?
So
we're gonna be the babysitters.
We'll see.
We'll see. I'm just saying. I hope so. So. With Corey, we put it on a piece of paper and we took it to dinner. You have this is on video.
I do.
And I opened it up and damn it said girl again. And I was like, it's a girl. And
with Naomi.
No, this is
Corey.
Blake. Corey.
Corey, yeah.
This is Corey. You were like, what'd you see? You cussed. In a funny way. You were like, damn it, or something. I don't remember what you said. And then there was that. So we were like, okay, 2 girls. Cool. Now we have 2 girls.
Best friends.
They are best friends. Again, I would not change it now for anything, because all of my friends who have boys, which is pretty much all of them, have boys. Oh my God, boys are wild and crazy. And I guess I remember that from my brothers.
Yeah.
But I hadn't thought about that part of it.
When I knew I was a girl dad when my younger son Jackson had a basketball game, and I went to the basketball game, and I took all the young boys home with me after the basketball game, and it was like 6 of them and my son, so it was like 7 kids, 7 boys. We all go back to the house, These little motherfuckers is jumping on the trampoline. They jumping off the side of the building. They throwing elbows on each other. Like these niggas is choking each other, putting each other in leg locks. Like they just doing like
the most
like type of stuff, right? So I'm like, damn, I'm cool with tea parties and shit. Like I'm cool with like chilling on the couch and watching some Barbie.
Doing
Like
hair and makeup.
I'm cool with all that because all that roughhouse shit. I thought that's what I wanted, but I actually really didn't want that.
No,
like having girls for me was the best thing ever. And I feel like a lot of people, dudes and women in general, also always say stuff like, oh, you must have, whatever you done in the past to have a bunch of girls, you must have done blah, blah. And I always tell people, I think that whenever, if you believe in God or not, whenever God gives you a bunch of girls, I feel like he gives you a bunch of girls because he knows that you're going to know how to treat them. I feel like he thinks I think it's a blessing that he knows that I'm going to treat my daughters kindly. I'm going to treat them with respect. I'm going to have empathy. I'm going to have patience. I'm going to be able to listen to them. I don't think that he put it on my mom because, gave me a bunch of girls
because you did girls.
Because I did girls wrong, or I was a womanizer,
or because you did a lot of girls,
or was a womanizer or anything like that. So I don't think that. I think he gives you girls because he feels like you are going to be able to protect them in the way that they need to be protected. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I like that. I like that opinion. I think with that it's just like girls, you have to then worry about their hearts getting broken and, them coming across. That's what it means. If you did any of them wrong, they're going to come across someone that does them wrong. I guess that's why people say that. But I'm, everyone goes through heartbreak. I'm ready to prepare them for all those things. And I think
I want my daughter dating a younger me? Probably not. I was respectful, but I wouldn't want them to date a younger me,
right.
when I was in my younger age and what I was doing.
I'm like real big on this. Like if my kids come to me at 20 years old and they're like, Mom, I fell in love with my life, I'm getting married, I'd be like, okay. But I want to support them, but they know I'm not for them getting married young. I am not for, I know that was the thing. And then it kind of switched where it wasn't the thing, but I am not. I think the man, especially, really honestly, I think the man should be 40 years old before he gets married. Yeah. 40.
I don't think so at all.
39.
I don't think so at all.
Oh man. I do, but
I don't think so
whatever.
At all. I don't think so at all.
Okay. I disagree. I disagree.
I mean, I get deep into why I know it's not a good idea for a man to be 40 whenever like they get married.
Why?
Well, because I think that if the longer the man waits, let's say if the man does. So if the man waits till he's 40, right? He didn't, and they say, oh, he didn't, live life. He didn't party, have fun, had, multiple partners or did relationships or whatever he's done. I feel like whenever he does get married at 40 and he does find his wife at that time, let's say he had a bunch of sexual partners at the time or just been in a bunch of relationships, I kind of feel like he compares those times to his wife that he's marrying. Like if she's not my best sexual partner, or she's not my best this or my best that. So then he gets comparing her to them because he's had so long of a history of not being married or not doing anything. And when you get married younger, you can have those experiences with that one person. You can learn those new things with that one person, and you can share those memories with that one person because y'all did everything at a younger age. Not saying rush into it, but like it doesn't have to be like let's go out here and fuck a bunch of people and explore.
Yeah, because you were for like Gerard, his high school girlfriend. They were together. Yeah. Since like junior high, right? They were together a long time, and that I remember that stressing me out. And you were like, why does that stress you out? Like he's with one girl,
the whole time.
And I was like
that's great.
Because he doesn't need to be just with her for the rest of his life.
Yeah. And this is a woman's perspective. I'm a dude and I'm telling this is good for him to be with one woman. I just wanted him
because I knew what was going to be in store for her if they were to like get pregnant or get married that young, and neither of them had ever done anything outside of that. I was worried.
Everybody think you got to go out and do a bunch of.
I think sometimes it works and it works out perfectly, but I think it worked out perfectly for my grandparents. My grandparents who got married at 18, 19 years old, because the mentality and the work ethic to make a marriage work was totally different back then.
Yeah.
Now people don't want to work at it. And this doesn't just come together. I mean, this isn't something where you don't work at it and it just is like, okay, we're happy all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't work that way. And I think when you're young, you don't realize that, and they quit easier now than they used to.
They do.
And so that's what I was concerned with is, you know, having a child early and then having to go through that and it, just a lot to it. So that was my thought.
All right, folks, we're going to pause right here on episode 2. It ran a little bit long, so this is going to be a 2-part situation. Tune in next week for episode 3 with Coffee with Jenni and Dre. To be continued. Thank you.